Give thanks and praise. Welcome back, everybody, to the Slick Dissident Shared Learning Experience. This will be part 2 of the tarot cards and their correspondence with the constitutional articles, the amendments, and particularly we will be focusing on the major arcana. And a lot of what I am beginning to appreciate is the value of doublethink. If the powers that presume to be are using doublespeak, it would behoove us to be affluent in the art of doublethink. And a lot of that is really coming forward in this project, as I have to admit, I have, in this particular project, I have made some statements that are ever so slightly inaccurate, and they are ever so slightly inaccurate by a magnitude of it exactly 1 degree. As I have mentioned this in the past, but the number of the amendment is cardinal counting. It begins with 1. However, the numerical sequence of the tarot, it begins with the 0. And that dynamic creates this 1-digit offset. So you will see that all of the black print is the amendments, and all of the colored print here is the tarot cards. And I have to apologize because I have altered the outline here, the structure of this. As last time in my previous videos, I had the colors represented on the other side of the screen, and I have decided to rearrange the organizing system to convey this information. So whatever was in that last video, you're going to have to double think your way out of it to accommodate this new arrangement that I've put together here. So the amendments are in black, the tarot cards are in color. And so, and once again, this is only scratching the surface. This is a preliminary run on what potential correspondences can be gleaned and appreciated from putting these 2 systems together in concordance, if you will. So, the 13th, we left off with the 12th Amendment, which means we were on the 11th tarot card. So now we are on the 13th Amendment, moving us into the 12th tarot card, which is the Hanged Man card. The Hanged Man card is bound up, he is tied up, he is hung by his one ankle, much like has a bit of a birth ritual intrinsic to the to his experience, as he's the one card in all of the tarot who is notorious for being upside down. He is coming out head first, much like a baby is birthed or born. But he is bound. Not only is his ankle tied, but his hands appear to be tied. So the 13th Amendment, which 13 is a very significant occulted number. I'm not going to get too into that, but it is a big to-do with those Knights Templar. They really love their 13s. So the Hanged Man card correlates in this arrangement to the 13th Amendment, where slavery was converted into the criminal penal system. And essentially, that amendment, we are told that it freed the slaves, but that is a bit of a mislead, if you ask me. I see it when you read much more nuanced perspective on it. is that it simply converted the term slavery. You can't use this word anymore. You now have a new word for a slave. A slave is a criminal. And if anybody is interested, I do recommend very critically that people watch the film 13. It might have been 13th, I think is the name of the film. It is about how the slavery industry was simply converted into the penal criminal system that we have today. So there's a lot behind the dynamics of this concept, way more than what is perceived by the public. Moving on to the 14th Amendment. And let's brighten up here. There we are. So the 14th Amendment corresponds to the 13th tarot card, which is the Death card. This is where citizenship was instituted. Also, representation and paying of public debts are all intrinsic to this 14th Amendment. Very interesting that our citizenship lines up with the Death card as we are descending into two-dimensional paperwork, into the realm of the dead, into the corpse oration, the death speak. That is so absolutely appropriate. And as I'm probably going to say this 5 more times before the end of the video, there is so much more to say about that fact. So much more to say. And like I think I mentioned it last time, I could do an entire video on each one of these, but we're just going to rip through just to get them on the record and begin the thinking process, the assessment of the value of this entire thought experiment. So 15th Amendment corresponds to the 14th card, which is temperance. And this has to do with the elective franchise of all males. And essentially it is the right to vote for all men. Franchise means free and choice. It is a French term. And with all aspects of law, every single word is loaded with meaning. To be free in choice, to have franchise, is a very, very powerful thing to consider and think about. It French means foreign, and to maintain a foreign status is very, very important to know when to claim association or when to acquiesce to presumption of association, and the ability to maintain your sovereignty as a foreign state, as a foreigner to the states. There's a lot in this single word right here, but it does mean free in choice. It means the right to vote if you read it in a quick overview, but free of choice is a much more nuanced term than a lot of people think about. But one aspect of this is that it's only for the males. Women do not have the right to vote just yet. Now, the next amendment, jumping into the 16th Amendment, this is income tax, and that is quite something as it lines up to the 15th card, the Devil card. That is quite remarkable to me, and I want to harp on this particular point. In my first read of this project, this experiment, I had the right to vote for all males. I had it corresponding to the Devil card because of the 15 to the 15. And that is an interesting thought if you look at the Devil card, as the Devil card is setting fire to the tail of the man. So the devil card and the right to vote for all men is a very interesting correlation. I am seeing this bleed over from one amendment into the next tarot card, and this amendment bleeding into the next tarot card. Much like these numbers, the offset of these numbers are, they have propinquity. They have just sufficient propinquity to the next number that it has a weaving, almost domino effect. The sequence is very, very crucial, and the way that it relates to the tarot cards as they're rolled out in their sequence seems to have this mechanistic gears locking. So I just want to point that out. So almost all of these, whenever I read an amendment, it not only does it relate to its tarot card on the number, but it seems to also relate to the next one, because the devil card being income tax is very, very interesting in and of itself. But also the fact that I was, like I said, projecting the number 15, the number 16 of income tax. Originally, I was relating it to the Tower card because Tower card is number 16. So that relationship is still valuable. It's still significant. It's still important. If you're capable of the double think and knowing about the propinquity and the proximity of these numbers and their relationship, I think we should give ourselves room to double think, give or take one number as we roll through this process in the sequence here. I just have to say that because income tax for me is also correlating to the Tower card as well. But all that aside, the number 17th amendment is the election of senators by the people. Their right to vote in their senators, and should the senator be removed in the middle of their term, the governor will appoint them. This is interesting. If you know your Tower card very well, you will know that it is being struck by lightning. Electric lightning is a volt of electric lightning is striking the Tower. So I find that very correspondent. Also, I'm thinking about this word senators and kind of a new light. You know, they are, let's see, are they maybe, have they ascended the Tower? Have the senators, have they ascended the Tower? Because the Tower card depicts fall guys, high priests falling to their death out of the Tower. That is really something to consider. Just a thought, just a very interesting thought. Moving on to the 18th Amendment, this is prohibition. And it lands on the 17th card, which is the star card. Now, again, as I said, with the double think, this was hitting me originally because I had prohibition correspondent with the moon card. Because prohibition led to the proliferation of moonshine. I found that so fascinating. That's part of the reason why I could not let this thought experiment go without further deliberation. But I want to point out, the star card is relates to Aquarius, and it is an air sign, and alcohol has that evaporative quality, that evaporative value. Aquarius is the water bearer who is pouring out a cup, a vase, a chalice, a vessel. And when you drink alcohol, traditionally, there is often a first pouring off, an offering to your homies, so to say, much like the water bearer is pouring water out of their cup. So as much as I wanted it to relate to the moon card because of moonshine, I find myself quite pleasantly surprised at how beautifully, it relates to the star card, the pouring out of alcohol, the giving up, the emptying of the cup, because prohibition emptied everybody's cup from alcohol and made it illegal, basically just driving up the dividends that could be made on the black market. We know that's what really happens. So that is quite interesting, that prohibition actually landing on the star card. Just something really, really fascinating going on with that. So 19th Amendment, corresponding to the 18th tarot card, is women's right to vote. That's really something. It's really something to think about. As we know that the moon is a very feminine element in magical systems. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I do know that there's a lot of work being done to perceive it in a different light. And I highly value that. I love the idea of the moon being masculine and the sun being feminine. As the moon is a stone, it is hard, it is a rock. The sun is soft, much like gold, it's pliable to the teeth. I do like that idea, but I'm just going to put things out the way they are coming out. My 2 cents, I'm keeping a lot of my 2 cents. We'll just say that. But one more thing. This is really interesting. It was in 1918 that they were drumming up, they were banging the drums to bring women into the public arena. And it was only 1 year after, it was in 1919, that Prohibition happened. So they got the women to come out and vote. With the 19th Amendment. And then 100 years later, 200 years later, whatever, many years later, it was in 1919 that Prohibition was put in place. So I just think that's really interesting that we've got these 19s and 18s, 18, 19, all of a lot of very powerful use of number magic, as I believe 1819 is Akin Natin. So yeah, there is some really powerful number magic kind of going on behind the scenes back in those days. Moving forward to the 20th Amendment and its correspondence to the 19th tarot card, which is the Sun card. The 20th Amendment is the president, the vice president, and Congress. They come into their office officially in January, and secession is done pre-inauguration. This line has so much more built into it. This dynamic has so much built into it. I am seeing a whole lot going on. 2019 is when they gave us the corona. That's really something to think about. That's a whole lot to think about. There was a lot of presidential, vice presidential, congressional animosity flared up in that time. And the January 6th, which is a 1-6, the January 6th event took place. It's a tower card, hailing back to election of senators, the voting, government appointing midterms. Just very interesting. Also, I got to point this out. I just have to. The word inauguration, it has the word auguries. And the term president comes from ancient Rome in the days of the ruling class being very influenced by the superstitions of the Etruscans. And they were augury readers. They would use the blood of serpents, generally in a silver container to read, to divine future outcomes. And that is only one form of augury reading. There are many other forms of augury reading. You could say that tracking people's election patterns, that elections are reading the auguries, is the high priest class presumes that we are animals. And the augury reading is basically using the animals for divining purposes. And I just wanted to point that out, that the word inauguration is hailing back to a very ancient form of superstition that was infallible, was considered infallible. The augury readers, they were not subject to elections, they were not subject to question. They were infallible. So this is also, totally ranting, this is why we have Fox News, this is why we have, what is the one, is it ABC that's a peacock? We have the peacock of, is it NBC, ABC, something like that. This is why all of the media, these are the Medians, this is why they use animals as their logos, is because of the readers of the auguries. And it is also why the Mind's Dream media is considered infallible, because they are the inheritors of that position, the readers of the auguries. Okay, moving on. 21st Amendment, lining up with the 20th card of Judgment. This is the repeal of the 18th Amendment. And that is really, really remarkable. And you'll notice that I had to really double think when I put this 18th Amendment going back to the 17th tarot card. I had to keep the color but change the number. A lot of double think going on. But repealing of the 18th Amendment is really fascinating because, for one, it does relate to judgment, as they gave people their ability to make and sell alcohol and left it to their own personal judgment as to whether or not to drink alcohol or not. Very interesting that they honored the judgment of the individual with this adjustment. Judgment also has to do with adjustment. So they adjusted the entire sequence of the Constitution in this single amendment. And it is really fascinating because it almost collapses the number 20 and the number 17, or number 21 and number 18, might be more accurate to say. So 21 collapses and 18 collapses, as though nothing were ever said or done. And so that is really fascinating that the edit does not remove the numerical value. It is this is positive law. They can only posit more upon what has already been written. They cannot just go back and collapse the numerical sequence, turning the 19th Amendment into the 18th, and the 20th into the 19th, and the 21st into the 22nd to 21st. They cannot just collapse or edit out what has been done in the past. They have to keep it in place. So this is a covenant. This is a covering. This is a amending of the amendment. It is really something. The linguistical the linguistical gymnastics that you have to do for posterity's sake, you could say. They cannot simply erase and collapse and change everything in between. They have to keep it for the record. Very fascinating, very fascinating. And now we come down to the 22nd Amendment and its relationship to the 21st and final tarot card of the major arcana, and that is the World card, also known as the Universe card in the Crowley deck. And this really had a very interesting reveal as it lays out the terms of the presidential terms being 2-term maximum for a 10-year maximum. And there is a lot to think about there because we have a 2 and a 1. And this could be tipping the hand just ever so slightly, as it does show this correlation to the 21st world card of the major arcana. So I'm stopping there because the tarot cards stop here at 21, the world card. There are plenty more amendments from there, but at this point, I think we all know that the damage has been done, and the system is rolling out in mechanical fashion from this point forward. So that is probably the end of that little project. I will be referring back to it in an interesting light. I think I will be using that concept of the double think and this propinquity principle of the amendment having actual correspondence to both its exact tarot card and the imminent tarot card to come, as it seems to have this descending effect, almost like water trickling down the terrace of a ancient pyramid, if you will. But that's about all I wanted to say on that one. Not sure what my next projects will be. Might be taking a little time off. I do believe I will be lightening my load in the next month. So I hope you guys dig it. Shoot me some comments. Let me know what inspires you from this little thought experiment. Much love and respect, everybody. Strength and wisdom.